Welcome to today's explainer. So, we're diving into a really fascinating piece by tech writer Aaron Rose. It's called The Death of the Desktop App. Now, I know that sounds like a bold claim, but we're going to unpack this massive fundamental shift in how we think about building apps in 2026. By the end of this, your whole mental model of what makes a powerful application, it might need a complete rewrite. Let's kick things off with a question. What is the absolutely most powerful way to build a local dashboard in 2026? If you're an engineer or just a tech nerd like us, your brain probably just jumped to a heavy runtime, right? You're thinking Swift for Mac, C# for Windows, maybe a big cross-platform wrapper like Electron. Basically, you're picturing a massive download, a dedicated installer, a loading screen, the whole shebang. But I'm going to need you to hit the brakes and totally reset your expectations here. Because the real answer, and this is the contrarian truth bomb Aaron Rose's whole piece revolves around, is simply a single HTML file. Just let that sink in for a second. We're not talking about a website, and we're definitely not talking about a cloud-hosted web app. The absolute most capable local application you can build today is just one single file, double-clicked, running entirely offline with the full heavy-lifting power of a modern browser behind it. So let's get into Section 1, the desktop app myth. Look. For decades, desktop app basically meant power. Native APIs, full disk access, permanence. But today, building a native desktop app means signing up for a mountain of bureaucratic headaches. I'm talking fragile installer pipelines that just randomly break, OS-specific frameworks that drift further apart every single year. And don't even get me started on the exhausting rituals of code signing and notarization just to prove your app isn't malware. Add in update systems that always seem to break exactly when you're 5 minutes late for a meeting, plus App Store gatekeepers, it's a nightmare. The traditional desktop app didn't exactly die, it just became way too heavy for the actual problems we're trying to solve.
Which brings us to Section 2, the local dashboard model.
This is where we hit the core thesis of today's explainer. We really need to completely redefine what the browser actually is in our heads. It is a self-contained application runtime. It's not just a viewer for fetching web pages from the internet anymore. When you double-click that single HTML file, it opens instantly, zero ceremony. It runs entirely offline, reading and writing right on your local machine. It fundamentally changes how we deploy local software.
Think about the contrast here. On one side, you have your traditional desktop app. It's heavy, it's burdened by installers, and you're trapped in platform lock-in. Now contrast that with the local dashboard. It's incredibly light. Double-click and you're in, assuming you're using a modern Chromium-based browser, which, let's be honest, is the de facto standard right now. That one single file handles everything. We're talking gigabytes of structured data, processing massive files without freezing up, and syncing across tabs with literally zero network connection. And the crazy part, it does all of this natively across Windows, Mac, Linux, and Chrome OS from the exact same file. Absolutely no installer required.
Okay, let's dive into Section 3, why this works now. Now, you might be wondering, why couldn't we do this 5 or 10 years ago? Well, the answer is right under the hood. The web platform didn't just casually become good enough. It evolved to become objectively superior for local-first tools. Take a look at these APIs. The File System Access API? That gives your HTML file direct read and write access to specific folders. IndexedDB gives you gigabytes of transactional local storage. Then you have the Streams API, which lets you process terabyte-scale data without completely blowing out your computer's memory. And web workers give you true multi-threaded computation. You throw WebAssembly and service workers into that mix, and you are literally looking at a purpose-built local application stack. The browser isn't just fast for the web anymore, it is just fast, period. But here is the really crucial point. It's power plus guardrails. Because browsers strictly enforce explicit user consent boundaries, they actually ask you for permission before touching a file or folder. These local dashboards inherit a much safer default posture than traditional apps. You're getting all of that incredible native compute power, but with built-in safety guardrails from day one. And honestly, that's a delicate balance that native desktop runtimes rarely pull off this cleanly.
Moving right along to Section 4, the zero-friction shift.
When you finally shift to this model, the architectural advantages are just absolutely massive. It's all about zero install UX. Your users open a file, no wizards, no installers. Zero friction updates. To upgrade, you just replace the file. Boom, done. Zero platform divergence. It is one single codebase running identically across every operating system. Zero dependency sprawl, so no heavy runtimes, no DLL hell, no package managers to constantly maintain. And zero network assumptions.
Everything runs locally, deterministically, and offline. The browser is giving you a stable, sandboxed, high-performance environment with a decade of backward compatibility. Traditional desktop frameworks simply cannot promise that kind of peace of mind. No way.
Now, let's be objective here. Section 5, where desktop still wins. To be completely fair, native apps do still hold some ground. They're currently better at running automatically right at system startup. They're better at living persistently in your menu bar or system tray, and they can access the entire file system transparently without making the user click a folder first. But, and this is a big but, it's essential to understand that these are mostly just integration conveniences. They aren't core computing capabilities. If you're building an intentional dashboard, a tool you open up, use intensely for a specific task, and then close, those conveniences just don't matter that much. Plus, the second the web platform standardizes a run at startup permission, that last real advantage is going to disappear entirely.
Which leads us to our final takeaway in Section 6, the new paradigm.
Here's the real headline from Aaron Rose's analysis. This is the paradigm shift that nobody is really saying out loud yet. The browser has quietly become the most stable, portable, and durable application runtime in all of computing. Think about it. It has threading, it has storage, it has native file access, it has a completely unified UI layer, and a security model that actually works. Desktop apps didn't lose the war because they got worse. They lost because the browser quietly got incredibly good. So what does this all mean for us? Well, if you're a developer, an engineer, or a creator, and your tool is local first, data heavy, privacy sensitive, cross-platform, and offline capable, you absolutely should not be building an Electron bundle. And you shouldn't be building a cloud-first SaaS product either. You should be building a single-file HTML dashboard. One file, under a megabyte, that can literally run circles around those traditional, heavy applications.
It really all boils down to this one quote. You're not building web pages anymore. You are building native quality applications that install nowhere but run absolutely everywhere. And they update by simply replacing a single file. The future of local software isn't the heavy, clunky desktop app. It's the dashboard.
Which brings us to a final provocative thought to leave you with. If the ultimate app is actually just a file hiding in plain sight inside the browser you are using right now, what are you going to build today? It's a massive shift in how we think about software development, and I really hope this explainer sparked your curiosity to rethink what's possible. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and keep exploring.